Chapter 1. Kenny. He probably was my first love. Not in a weird way, because he was my brother, but like the first opposite sex person that I loved. And it was a strong love. We were only a year apart. I'm using past tense to describe him. I just realized that. That's crazy. Man, detectives are smart people. Anyways. Yeah, he was my first love in this world. We were inseparable. And I don't really have many memories of him except for, or not of him. I don't have any memories without him as a child, which is kind of strange. I'm not sure how that works out, but you know. Anyways, yeah, he was my first love. We were a year apart from each other. We grew up in the country of Oklahoma. It was a little town called Sperry. Yeah. And he was my bestie, my very, very bestie, obviously. We did everything together. We skipped school one day together. Oh my God, this is so, okay. So we lived right next to Highway 75, like right off the highway. And my brother and I heard that they were building a Walmart in Owasso. And so we thought we were going to ride our bikes. Okay. We thought we were going to ride our bikes to the new Walmart in Owasso. I don't think at this point we had ever been to a Walmart before. And if we had, it was of a grandeur experience. Like we're going into Tulsa, which would have been the nearest Walmart. So it was quite a drive. Okay, so we get on our bikes and we start riding. And in Sperry, everything back then was very country. Like no city light streets or anything. We lived way in the country. It was far back. Okay. And so anyways, we get on our bikes and we start riding toward Walmart on 116th Street. And we have to cross the highway, and it is a 4-lane highway. So it's a pretty big highway, especially for like an 8-year-old and a 9-year-old to try to do. Now, so in the median of the highway, there were a bunch of cattails growing. And we put our bikes in the turning lane because we noticed nobody was using that. And we began to have the world's best cat sword fight. Like, there were those little foamy, little fuzzy things everywhere. Like, I guess we just didn't notice. But, I mean, we were ecstatic about what we were doing. It was fun. We could have been out there for maybe a half an hour having a sword fight, you know. And then a policeman pulls over and he's got his lights on. And we looked around and there were like the line of traffic. We stopped both sides of the interstate. And the cops were like, oh man, they were like, where do you live? And we were like, no, we were so scared we didn't want to give them our address. Like, he loaded up our bikes in the back of his car and he drove down, and our highway was like a 1/4 mile highway. It was so long. So we had to go down this dirt long highway to the house, and my dad was sleeping because he worked nights and would sleep during the day, and mom was at her restaurant. So like, you know, we were about to get beat. And we did too. He woke my dad up, and my brother and I ran underneath the crawl space of the house. And my dad was like, come on out of there, guys. You're not in trouble. He was one of those kind of dads. And yeah, we got the shit beat out of us that night. We were in big trouble. Man, that was a good memory. Good time. We, on our property, we had ponds on both sides. So coming in, you would cross a creek. The dirt road would go over a creek. And then there would be a pond here. And then it would be like, okay, so this is the house. So a pond here. And then if you went around the road to back here, like way, it was a big piece of property, there was another pond. And so we would go swimming in those ponds like every day we could in the summer. Like you couldn't keep us outside. But what was better was the pond right diagonal to the house. Okay, this pond was better because it had an island in it. All right, and it had one tree, and this tree grew like all kinds of weird. I think it was like a Spanish oak tree or something, but it grew all kinds of weird at the base. So it had a really low trunk, but it branched out a lot, and it was scrawny. It wasn't like ginormous. Stop, Dana. Okay, so we would go to that pond every day. We would. It wasn't on our property, so we'd have to cross the fence. So we would have to walk down like a long ways. So my sister, who would be babysitting us, wouldn't catch us sneaking over to that property and playing at that guy's pond. But he had a huge pile of like trees and limbs and stuff. Maybe at one time they were going to burn them, but they never did. And it was right next to the pond. So we made this fort, like this cave inside there. And to date, that is still there. I would love to go in there and like see if we left any treasures, or anything like that. I would really love to do that. That's wild. Anyways, so we would go in there and play. And so we wouldn't get caught. We would do it in our underwears. And we would put our clothes on top of our fort so they wouldn't get wet. And then when we would come back all clean, they would know that we were okay and we wouldn't get in trouble. All right, that's another story I'll tell you next too. So anyways, one day we decided we were going to build a raft. And it was going to be out of all the spare and scrap wood that you find around a farm. And we had lots of it. So we began our adventure, and it took us like all summer to build it, okay? And every day we would go to this pond, and we would take our clothes off in our underwear so we wouldn't get in trouble. And then we would pretend, we would build this boat together, this raft. And we were going to oar like to the center island. We actually did. And when we built this raft, and it was like a rectangle type raft, and it made it to the island. And on the island, we saw the biggest water snake we'd ever seen. And at 8 or 9, to us, it must have been like an anaconda, because in my vision of it, it was like an anaconda wrapped in the tree. But it wasn't. I don't know what size it was now because I was a child, and my memory makes it an anaconda. So funny. But we rode back really quickly to the other side, and we never went out to the island again because we believed that there was a large snake there.